Hi, I'm JJ, and you're listening to Microphone Munchies. Food for thought, they'll get you hungry for more. So happy whatever today is. I think it's probably Saturday, Sunday ish. Forgive me, I was a little bit late making this podcast. Not gonna lie, I've been quite stressed in quite a bit actually these days. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Today, I want to talk about a very, very important idea, which is how to be kind to yourself when you feel like you're going backwards. How to be kind and nice to yourself when you feel like maybe you're not where you want to be in life, and maybe you feel like instead of advancing, instead of improving, you're actually going into a quote unquote lesser state. And the first thing I want to say is it's one of those things where it's very easy to talk about when you're not feeling like when you're not in that negative space. It's very easy to, it's very easy to intellectualize. It's very easy to think about what you would do. But then when you're actually feeling down, when you feel really depressed, when you feel really sad, when you feel really angry at yourself, it's much harder to apply what you know works. And I guess that's kind of the irony of all this. Like most of the people, I find this is probably in the self-help world as well. Most of the times people know what to do, and it's easy to say what to do when you're happy and everything is good. But it's the moments where we're not good where we see who we really are. And I think it's very natural that oftentimes you won't be on the ball all the time. Like there are times where you have great intentions, but you fall off. And I think that's very normal. I think that's very human. The question then is, how can we recover, right? Like how can we get back on track, whatever that means? And is that even something you want to have? I was watching and reading some articles from one of my favorite creators, Lawrence. He's the author of the blog More to That. I believe that's what it's called. I hope I got it right. But I was listening to one of his. He had a recent video on YouTube, and he talked about something similar, which is why are we so like in this world that we have where quote unquote we have all this freedom, right? Freedom to do anything. Why do we feel trapped? Because in this world of freedom, we always feel like we're never doing enough. Like we always feel like someone out there is doing more than us, and that no matter how much we achieve, we could be achieving more. If only we hustle harder, if we work better, work smarter, work harder, blah, 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 blah. And the irony is that this system that we're in, maybe it's a capitalistic system, maybe it's the way the world is, it's very easy to compare yourself with everyone else, social media. And the irony is that the more freedoms we have in terms of what to do with our life, like we can quote unquote be anyone, right? Like you could be a billionaire tomorrow. You could start your own business and blah, 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 blah. Because of all of this comparison, we are constantly bombarded by this idea that we're not good enough, or that we are not succeeding, not because we're unfortunate or not because of other factors, external factors. We are constantly told that we don't succeed because we're just lazy, or we're just not smart, or we're just not hardworking. And so the irony, and this is it's something that I didn't really think about that much, but the irony is that in the world where everything is free, in a world where you have the possibility to do anything, actually you will be paralyzed. This is analysis paralysis, right? If you have too many options, it's often harder to make a decision. Think about when you're at a restaurant. When you're at a restaurant with only 3 menu items, like when you're at a burger place, there's only burgers. You're there, you have burger, or burger. Usually it's like beef burger, chicken burger, veggie burger. But if you're at a restaurant with like a million things, it's very difficult to choose, because all of a sudden, all the options, every time you make a decision, you think, well, that means I didn't make this decision. And so it's very easy to regret. I bring all of that because this constant feeling of not being good enough is one that I've had for probably my entire life. Could be a variety of things. Could be childhood traumas. Could be just the environment I grew up in. Could be parts of my personality. I'm not entirely sure. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about specifically is, well, I mean, lately it's been a little bit difficult to sleep in a way. This week now it's a little better, but earlier last week and the week before, I've had a really hard time sleeping. Like, I'll be in bed and I'll just be tossing and turning at 2 a.m. And on Sunday it was so bad I didn't even sleep. Like, I literally was in bed, and then it was 6 a.m. and I went out for a walk because there was nothing else to do. So I just realized I was so anxious about all this stuff. And it all ties into something else. I just realized that recently, thanks to my sister, which is that, well, long story short, recently I've been feeling a little more chubby, feeling a little more, I've been eating out a lot more. I've been eating more unhealthy. I've been snacking. I have been trying to exercise more. Like, for those of you who listen to this podcast, you know that I've been trying to, and I've been walking quite a bit, but I've also been eating more. So it didn't really balance out. And my sister mentioned that it all started really around like October-ish. And now that I think back, that's when my master's started. That's when I started doing my master's. And I realize now that I was stress eating. I mean, the master's is kind of strange because day to day it's just part of my life now. But I'm always stressed about it because, for example, right now I'm in exams. So I'm doing my exams. That's why I'm stressed for that. But in general, every time I'm, thinking about my master's, I always think, is it worth it? Is the money worth it? It's not cheap. Is it worth it to do this? Is the energy and time worth it? And I always second guess myself. I always wonder if maybe what if I'm just doing this master's because I'm just not good enough to do things without getting a piece of paper, or I'm not capable enough to, I don't know, do my own like freelance stuff, business, like start my own business or whatever, or make proper money, as my sister says. Maybe, and I'm not gonna lie, it all weighs really heavily on me because every time I think about it, my brain goes spiraling out of control. Maybe this is something that happens to you too. Like, you think of one thing and then it goes next thing, and then next thing you know, you're thinking about your entire future and your life, and maybe you'll end up dead and alone, and all this nonsense, all this stuff that just keeps going in your brain. And so I've been feeling pretty bad because I'm feeling a little bit chubby, and I know this sounds really strange, not strange. I know this sounds really vain and really simple, but it's getting warmer now in Toronto. I'm really excited for summer, but I can't fit into my shorts. And so it just doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? Like when when you're trying to wear your pants and it's just not working. And so on a very, very simple level, I don't want to pay money to buy more shorts. I don't want to pay money to buy more clothes. And so that's why I'm trying my best to, for my own reasons, get, eat healthier, cook more, etc., etc. And I think the biggest part of all this, the learning to be kind to yourself, is I always find myself thinking this. I always find myself thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. Like, I know exactly what to do, and yet I didn't do it. I know that the stress will make me eat, and yet I overate. Blah, blah, blah. It's very easy to just regret. If only I did this, if only I did that. But the past is already gone. We can't change that. And so one thing that I found is that I would just beat myself up over something I couldn't change. And then that made me even more anxious because I knew I couldn't change it, and I knew I shouldn't be beating myself up. And yet I was beating myself up. So it was like this constant spiral of just like negative energy, like just self-hatred. And it wasn't healthy. And to the point where, like I said, for the last few weeks, I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping. And it's been a little bit of a shock to me because, every day, usually I write things like, 3 things I'm grateful for, stuff like that. And one thing that's helped me a lot this week, and so I want to share this with you, is I'm trying every day now to write down what I'm anxious about, my anxieties, as well as what plan I would have when those anxieties come up. So, for example, I'm anxious about this exam that I'm doing. Just have to write an essay, but I'm anxious about it. And so I wrote in my little notebook, well, every time I'm anxious, Or every day I'll just, do a little bit. Maybe I'll do an hour, read a little bit, write a little bit, step by step. And I was things like, I'm anxious about not being able to fall asleep. Okay, so if that happens, what would I do? If I can't fall asleep, then maybe I'll get up and I'll write, or I'll drink some water, or go for a walk or something. And maybe I'm anxious about the future. I'm anxious about money. I'm anxious about everything, really. And so, or my fitness and stuff. And I write about it. And the funny thing is that when you write it, or when I wrote it, when you see it on paper, you realize either it's something that is not as big of a deal as you thought it would be, or, and especially when you write the plan, right? Like, for example, some things I can't change. Like for example, I'm anxious. I don't know when COVID will end. I can't really change that, but my plan is, well, I'll just try my best or whatever. But when you write the plan down, it's weird, because then the worry, instead of being stuck in your brain, it's now on the paper. And so when I go to sleep, I don't have to think about it as much, because the thought is already in my notebook. And so that's something that really, really helped for me. So now every day I try my best to do two things in terms of the writing. One would be, I still write my gratitudes, things I'm grateful for. And the second one would be what I'm anxious about, as well as how, like, my plan, like what would I do if I'm anxious about this? And so that's basically it. Hopefully this is something that's helpful for you. Being kind to yourself is not easy. And it's not easy when you're in that space, right? It's easy to think about. It's always easy. I always find it's easy to be positive when you're already positive. But when it's a rainy day, when you're just not feeling good, when you have a stomach ache, when you just feel like a bleh, that is the moment where being kind to yourself is really important. And so the last concept I want to share is that we always think that, like, we look at the past and we always think about what could have been, right? But we don't really realize that the future will one day be that past. In other words, at this moment in time, wherever you are, the past is already gone. You already picked a choice. You cannot go to the other what ifs. No what if you did this, no what if you did that. But you can choose the what if for tomorrow. So that's the challenge for you. That's the opportunity for you. What will you do for tomorrow? Because one day, tomorrow will become yesterday. And then it will be the what if situation all over again. And so for me, my plan is, okay, the exercise stuff, no problem. I'm going to still do that. But now it's all about diet. Diet, making sure I'm eating well, not necessarily starving myself, but making sure I'm eating well, trying to cook more, drinking more water, and sleeping more. And that's, at least for me in my life, that's the combination. So I hope you find something for yourself. Best of luck with whatever you're dealing with. And I'll see you next time. That's JJ out.